This is Olbermann versus Trump, and I'm not Trump. A coup via television. Trump has given away his strategy over the weekend, and it is simple and terrifying, and yet it can be beaten. Given the slightest opportunity to do so, per the Trump confidant sources of Jonathan Swan from Axios, he will, quote, walk up to a podium on election night and declare he has won. Then, from his own words in North Carolina, we're going in night of. As soon as the election is over, we're going in with our lawyers. As Axios has reported, if Trump has won or is merely leading in Ohio, Florida, Texas, North Carolina, Arizona, and Georgia, he will try to pull off his bid to overthrow the Constitution, overthrow the government, overthrow the will of the people of the United States of America. Walk up to a podium on election night and declare he has won. You know, just like he walked up to a podium on February 26th and said of the total of COVID-19 cases in our country, quote, you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero. As I used to say in a different and happier context, premature jocularity. Proclaim victory and get out. The lawyers. No, I don't know how it's going to turn out either. That makes it unanimous. It's like not being sure how D-Day was going to turn out, or the Battle of Gettysburg, or the Revolutionary War, or the exorcism in The Exorcist. But there is one advantage that those of us trying to save or recreate American democracy have, which our ancestors did not. Trump has given away his strategy and given us time to prepare for it. Step one, the televised victory claim. Step two, the lawyers. Step three, which he personally gave away, the violence. In Pennsylvania, Trump forecast, quote, bedlam in our country if the election is not decided Tuesday, which is just another dog whistle like liberate Michigan. He means he wants bedlam in our country. And we saw various flavors of bedlam over the weekend. Democrats in Rome, Georgia, canceled a rally yesterday because they were informed Trump militia were going in to break it up. And law enforcement said, sorry, you are on your own as we all have to go protect Trump at his rally. Trump brown shirts blocked highways in New Jersey and a bridge in suburban New York City just to show they could get away with it. Peaceful marchers in North Carolina, led by religious leaders and with a permit to be there, were told to disperse by Alamance County Sheriff's thugs. A second later, they were tear-gassed. Some were elderly, others were as young as 5. In Houston, Republicans sued to throw out more than 100,000 votes cast in a drive-through ballot center to which their party had agreed in advance. The state Supreme Court threw it out. A Bush-appointed, right-leaning federal judge has just agreed with that court, but who knows? Outside San Antonio, a Biden-Harris campaign bus was first followed around by a hearse, and then it was threatened by a pack of gun-toting racists who tried to crowd the bus off a highway. Police would not intervene. The FBI is now investigating. Republican chairperson there said Trump would never endorse harming or hurting other people. Trump then tweeted a video of his brown shirts chasing the Biden bus, and he congratulated them. Well, if you are already a mass murderer responsible for the death of 230,000 Americans by COVID-19, what's a few more dead people in a bus? So therein is the plan to change democracy into dictatorship, to stage a coup with television and lawyers and bedlam. And here's how to beat it, besides the obvious, a Biden victory so big and so fast that it would leave Trump no room to do anything but concede and simultaneously announce he's running in 2024 and the rallies start next Saturday. The solution actually played out in real time early this month, and it worked with stunning effectiveness. Trump and Giuliani and the fascist propaganda machine threw the same kind of confusing, baseless mud against Biden as it did in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, yet only the outlets like Fox and Breitbart and the New York Post, who long ago sold their souls, fell for it this time. And that is the first defense for democracy. In large measure, American television news operates from a place of fear. Fox, with the seductive simplicity and mendacity of the catchphrase fair and balanced, has been working the refs nonstop since 1996. And after the debacle of the coverage of the 2000 election, the legitimate networks were terrified of repeating that on-air chaos. Exit polling was curtailed, projections were limited, even speculation as to an outcome before the last polls had closed in the West was forbidden. In 2008, state after state closed and was projected for Obama, and by 10:20 or so Eastern time, it was clear to lots of us that McCain's path to victory actually now led right off a cliff. Our producers permitted me to do that math, to ask, rhetorically, if such and such a state went this way, Obama has won, hasn't he? They just wouldn't let anybody answer that before 11 p.m. This is hardly a flawless system, but it is better than the other ones. And yet it may collide tomorrow night against a president, an incumbent, who is willing to perpetrate a coup against the people, the Constitution, and the government of the United States via live television. This system of TV news may collide with a man willing to be a dictator and literally in fear of prison if he loses. This system of TV news may collide with a man whose hacks have implied and whose confidants have anonymously asserted that his hope is to have the illusion of a lead before all the votes are counted, maybe even before the polls are closed, and to walk up to a podium on election night and declare he has won. It is indefensibly stupid that what television producers and executives and network owners do next may decide whether next week we have an exorcism or a totalitarian state. But it is true. Even live broadcasting such an announcement by Trump will give it the authority of live television, of free delivery into every American home, on every American channel, as it happens. It will give Trump the immoral high ground. It is thus incumbent on the major networks to simply not carry any statement from Trump live Tuesday night. If he declares victory before the election is decided, do not show him doing so live. Record it, perhaps use clips from it later, certainly quote from it. Position it correctly, not Trump declares victory, but Trump attempts coup, or at least Trump lies. Do not run it live. Do not televise it live. Do not stream it live. Do not tweet it live. Do not. Fox will, Sinclair will, this OANN crap shack will. Let them do so. Their role is not journalism, it is propaganda. To my old colleagues at MSNBC and NBC and CNN and my old colleagues at ABC and CBS, and yep, I've worked for them all, no, you should not be in a position of being vital to whether democracy or dictatorship prevails. But you will be, as a collective body, as separate news organizations, and as individual citizens of this country. This will be your time. Are you stenographers? Are you transcribers? Are you mere megaphones for fraud and deceit and greed and the destruction of democracy? If Trump were to get up and tell Americans to kill themselves, like he was Jim Jones at Jonestown, would you televise that live? If Trump gets up and tells people he has won when he has not, and his words alone are an attack on every precept of a fair and honest election, why would you televise that live? There is a difference between truth and fact. Fact would be that Trump got up and lied and you televised it anyway. Truth would be recognizing that by televising him getting up and lying, you will no longer be neutral. You will be helping him subvert the democracy that protects your profession, your employment, your life, and the life of everyone and everything about which you care. You are supposed to be dedicated to truth, not just mere facts. You are supposed to be dedicated to this country, not just to some insane distortion of balance that says you must help to ensure that, as Jonathan Swift put it in 1710, falsehood flies and the truth comes limping after it. It may fall to the television network news divisions to help save the democracy. Do not televise Trump live. Period. Good night and good luck. Let me run through the Monday headlines for you briefly. We have one that is recently in as I sit to record this. Ryan Mahoney is voting Biden. Who is Ryan Mahoney and why does this matter anything? Ryan Mahoney was until 2019 the communications director of the Republican National Committee. Number two, in a midnight rally in Florida last night as his fascist crowd shouted, "Fire Fauci," Trump revealed he intends to fire Fauci after the election. Couple of days, he said. Give him a couple of days. Legally, he cannot fire Fauci from that position. Not that this has stopped him from doing things like this before. But the mental imbalance of Donald Trump was underscored last night by stating this. Fauci has an approval rating of 64%. This means that there are independents and people intending to vote for Donald Trump who actually like Fauci more than they like Trump, and all this could possibly do would be to shore up his base, which would agree with him if he said, as I said in the commentary, "Hi, I'm Jim Jones and welcome to Jonestown." As you've probably seen in video and elsewhere online, the entire White House area, the Ellipse and Lafayette Square, is now a fortress inside a walled city. 250 National Guardsmen will be deployed there, and there is to be a non-scalable fence. He finally built his goddamned wall. And the White House was never so fortified even during the Civil War. And when Teddy Roosevelt was president on New Year's Day, anybody willing to get in line and wait a few hours was welcomed inside the White House to shake the president's hand. And lastly, one light note before we enter into what could be a very dark or a very wonderful 24 hours. The New York Times has taken its polling info and now broken it down by first name. They have, in fact, a device on their website that will permit you to find out how people with your name are voting. The Karens have broken for Biden 60-40. Who would have expected it? All the criticism has worked and the Karens are breaking for Biden in early polling information. The Joes and Josephs are split 45-45. All the Donalds go for Trump by 68%. Keiths don't show up in the data naturally. And one last one. Richards support Trump 64-36. So yeah, Trump has the support of 3/4 of all the dicks in the country. See you tomorrow.